of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and this week I'm joined by our official pinch hitter co-host, Sean Hager.
What's up, guys?
And we also have a guest, and if you've gotten this far, you must know it by now, but we're going to pretend that we just started. Our guest is Anthony Towie, and he's the editor of SureCraftBeer.com on the internet. You say hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So actually, let's start by giving you a little background introduction. Can you tell us about your website, how it started, what you guys are doing, what's your plan in the long term and in the short term?
Sure thing. Well, my name's Anthony Towie, like you said, and I'm the editor for a company called State Ventures that owns a bunch of websites, our biggest one being OceanCity.com. And then SureCraftBeer.com is a new project that really started probably last October or so. That's when we redesigned the craft beer page on OceanCity.com and really took notice of all the stuff going on here, how there's so many cool stories and cool beers and stuff that we really want to get the message out about. So we kind of started that, we built that up, and got a really good response for it. And then we were down at one brewery in Ocean City over the summer, probably August, and we were speaking with the bartender, and he was talking about how his owner didn't really believe in craft beer and all this. They only had one on tap, and that kind of really a light bulb went off with me and my boss were together, and kind of a light bulb went off that, hey, someone needs to really promote this, all these breweries and beer we have around here. They need to educate both the population and the restaurant and hotel owners about all the beer so that they can, sell in their restaurants and people seeking out local products can get what they want. So that kind of really started the momentum for it, and then we ended up partnering with a couple entities in Ocean City, the biggest one being the Ocean City Hotel Motel Restaurant Association, who is one of our co-sponsors, the Chamber of Commerce, and a couple other people are also working with us, Scott Thomas from Southern Delaware Tourism as well. And the first thing we did after launching the site was we organized an event to get all the brewers in front of hoteliers and restaurateurs and some of the public. And that was held at Burley Oak in November. It was called Beer Talk and Tasting. And we had about 80 people show up, probably 60 of which were in the trade, a few Burley Oak regulars, and then some people from the public. And basically, we introduced all the breweries to the hoteliers. We let people talk. The brewers talked about their uniqueness and what they offer. They met with some of the hoteliers. They networked. People started to put packages together. And so a lot of momentum is really snowballing from just these little efforts. Beer Talk and Tasting is now going to be a quarterly event. And our next one is coming up actually Monday, the 26th, at Aswan Bay Brewing on 45th Street in Ocean City. That's going to be at 4:30 to 6. And the theme of this one is going to be beer styles, flavors, and ingredients. So I think we have 8 breweries participating. All 8 of them are going to bring a different style of beer, and each one is going to talk about their particular style, the flavors, the ingredients, how it's brewed, etc., the things that make it unique, and what people should consider when they're purchasing it. And again, we've already got about 60 RSVPs from the trade, and we're expecting to have a bigger turnout than last time.
Very cool. One of the things I wanted to ask is, so you do this education program, and how do you decide the theme? Do you decide the themes? Have you been to this? Did you go?
No, I didn't get to go to the first one. I'm actually planning on doing the one on Monday. I'm going to bail on my other job a little early.
That's great. That's exactly what we want. That's why we had it 4:30. The thing was people would leave their work a little early and come and try a couple beers with us, and it's another incentive to come. But no, the idea is the first one we just did an overview. We kind of did a generalization of where craft beer is, because you guys know that craft beer has been popular for a long time, but here in the Eastern Shore sometimes we tend to be a little bit behind on the trends. So it's really just starting to take notice, and people are really just starting to take an interest in it. So we talked about the progression of what a lot of people call the craft beer revolution, how it started in the 60s and through the 80s, through the boom bust period of the 90s, and then we kind of focused in locally, like why are all these breweries here? We talked about those kind of things, and also what we can do to work together to promote the entire area. And then from there, it was just a natural progression into education. A lot of people, one of the brewers, I think it was Danny Robinson from Backshore, had said that it was his experience that sometimes if a business owner buys a particular beer, they're just buying whatever their distributor tells them will sell. And then if it doesn't sell well, then they don't see it as that particular beer was the problem. They see craft beer as a whole as the problem, and that might turn them off to beer in general. So the whole idea with the second one is to really educate people, knowing this is a huge world. It's as diverse as fine wine. There's so many styles and flavors, and there's literally something for everyone. And that if you can't find, the first try you have isn't good or isn't what you want, that you can really, keep exploring, keep trying, and eventually you'll find one, if not many things that you do like. So that's kind of really what the impetus was for this one. And then we really just going forward, we just kind of have an idea of kind of things that we could talk about, but really we just talk to the brewers and see what kind of message they want to get out, what do they think is important, because they've been doing this a lot longer than we have and know what's the industry a lot more than we do, so we're learning as we go.
Well, one of the interesting things is they do a similar thing here, and they're doing one here on Friday. They also have, I'm sorry, I forgot in the introduction, we're here at Extreme Brewing in Laurel, Delaware. They have an education program, and this next Friday, the 31st, next Saturday, the 31st.
I was like, we can do another one on Friday.
They'll be doing, go ahead.
Saturday, the 31st, we'll be doing one of hopefully many all-grain demonstrations / classes, and we're going to involve some of the local pro brewers. This upcoming Saturday, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Jerry Franklin who's with Third Wave Brewing Company. He's going to come out and do the all-grain demonstration. He can also promote his business as well, but educate some of the beginning homebrewers who want to expand their knowledge and go into all-grain, which you can save some money on. We'd be able to teach that to everybody.
And what I think is cool about the two of these projects together, or generally, is that hotel people reach out and they say, "Hey, come, we have the beach," and everyone else is reaching out and saying, "Hey, when you come to the beach, you should come see us." And when you come to and what the brewers are doing is they're like, "You should come here and have beer." And they're one of the few industries that are reaching out directly to their people, saying, "Come here, learn more about the beer," and that way you can take that. I mean, you can only swim in the ocean in 18 states or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Beer wherever you go now, and that's why it's very cool that everyone who's involved in the industry is trying to find a way to educate people so that they can enjoy it even when they're not here. So they can enjoy it even when they're brewing it at home. They can enjoy it even when they go back to Pennsylvania or to Baltimore or to New Jersey or from whencever they came. Is whencever a word?
Whencever? I don't think that's one word. Maybe two.
Anyway, whencever they came.
I was going to say, going back to your point about the hotels and really trying to bring people here, and that's an interesting point you made about a lot of people are saying, come see us when you're here instead of saying come see us, anyway. And, one of the things that Ocean City's always had a problem with as a tourist destination is that the season it really is, Memorial Day till Labor Day. Now it's a little bit better now. It's more, early May through October really, but there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of time where the businesses don't have business. There's not people in town to sustain business, and the craft beer could really be a way to get people there in the off season. Already we've had people, try to start, talk about starting bus services to transport people around if they want to do group tours and stuff. So, there's the possibilities are limitless as far as what craft beer can bring to our area as far as the economy and bringing more tourism, and not just tourism in those peak months, but any time of year.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about as far as and I wanted to segue into it so I can brag because I was at something that you guys weren't at. Was the RAR Tunes on Saturday last, and it's part of a larger story. So I'll tell it real quick. They had an event where they opened at 9 a.m. and they served breakfast and beer, and it was very, very well attended, and everyone had it. They thought they were going to do well. They had no idea how well they were going to do. They got real backed up with breakfast. And this is the thing. If you're sitting in a diner and it takes you half an hour to get your eggs and you're drinking crappy coffee, you're not going to be happy. But if you're sitting in a brewery or maybe playing Nintendo, drinking beer at 9:45 in the morning, you may not even know, you may have forgotten that you ordered eggs, and it doesn't matter. And everyone was having a good time. Nobody, like Randy Mills, the brewer there, who's, Randy, Anthony, you know
Yes,
him,
I've
right?
met Randy
Yeah.
once or twice.
You know Randy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've known
So
Ian for years.
he's just such a good guy, and he was a little hemmy and haw. He's just like, oh, it's taking so long to get the breakfast out. I don't know. Like, look around. Everyone is having a blast, and everybody absolutely was. They had cartoons running. They debuted two beers, but I got my first chance to taste one, which is now probably in my top 10 beers. The two they debuted were the 3890, which was a Belgian quad, and the other one was they did a bacon maple stout to go with breakfast. Bacon coffee maple stout to go with the eggs, and that beer kicked at 10:15. That was gone immediately.
Apparently, Dogfish had insane turnout for their breakfast beer they did that had Scrapple.
The Scrapple one,
Yeah.
but that wasn't quite as good as the room.
The guy was just in here a few minutes ago, and he said it was amazing.
Really?
I didn't try it.
Oh, I
I
thought,
love to Scrapple too much.
Oh, I see. You didn't want to ruin it.
Don't take that from me.
But the point of I'm sorry, and the one that I wanted to praise the most was they had the nectar, habanero nectar. It was their Nanticoke nectar IPA, which has always been fine. It's never been my favorite beer in the world. It's a perfectly acceptable IPA.
I love that IPA. I'm serious. Like, for a look, it's not my favorite IPA by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm telling you right now, that IPA is solid every single time I've had it.
Well, that's what he does really well.
And for a small brewery to just bang out consistency, that's really impressive. I haven't had it once
where it wasn't.
It wasn't
the
awesome.
same.
Mm-hmm.
Well, have you had the habanero one yet? Oh, very good, because it's not in your face. It really is. I mean, I know we use the word back end way more than we ought, but it's true. It's just by the time you're done with the pint, you've got this nice tingly sensation in the back of your mouth, and now it's not like you smell it. The habanero, I think, cuts the floral a little bit. I think it cuts the nose, but that's really it. You taste it, you're like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder why. And then as you're drinking it, and as it warms, and as you taste more and more of it, by the time you're done with it, it's almost like, you know how they used to put popcorn or they put hot stuff, peanuts, or on the bar to make you drink more? It has the hot stuff in it. So you drink it, you're like, ooh, that was hot stuff. I need more of this beer. So the only downside is, and I put this in I'll be doing a blog about it, but I'll put this in there, I got absolutely wrecked, which is something I tend not to do. But when you're drinking big beers on an empty stomach at 9 o'clock in the morning, they're going to go right to your head. I spent a blue fortune on beer, because that was the other thing, right? Because I've got my morning energy. I'm not tired, so I'm drinking, and the next thing I know, I'm like, I don't even know how many pints I had at this point. I had about $70 worth with the missus. Yeah, we drank a lot of beer.
Well, now we know why I kicked it 10.
Yeah, and then of course we had to go across the street to Jimmy and Sook's, and we ordered everything that was fried on the menu, just so. I mean, my wife was kind enough to be the designated driver. She had a couple beers and then she backed off.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was.
Don't worry, you drank her share.
Oh, I drank her share. I didn't drink your share. I drank some of the beer you might have had.
That's a mighty challenge you have there, sir.
Right. But the point is, Anthony, if you want to talk a little bit about how these events build a local community, you were talking about shoulder season kind of things, and this is one of those things where if they had done it in June, it may have been miserable, because you would have had people there who weren't enthusiastic about the brewery so much as enthusiastic about the experience. Maybe a lot of out-of-towners who weren't there for the beer but were there kind of to be there. Whereas the tourism aspect of it is people who are coming in the shoulder seasons to attend events like this, the events like Dogfish has, and maybe even coming from out of town to see some of these educational things that you guys are promoting.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about the tourist aspect and people coming to these events, because when we first sat down to conceptualize this, we knew that we had to educate the industry first, because in order for, if people are ever going to recognize us as a craft beer destination, they have to see it everywhere. I think it was Gary Figs from Secrets that we consulted when we were putting this project together, and they have Tropicale, which is Revivolution, which is their signature beer. We were talking about the craft beer movement in general, and we asked him, what would be the thing that, as a business owner, how would we sell this to you? And he said, honestly, the stats are great and stuff, but what's really going to sell it is when my customers come in and start asking, oh, do you have this or do you have that? Or what's local? So that got us thinking we really need to, get people asking for that. So we need them to see it everywhere. We need them to know it's around. We need them to be aware of it. And kind of what we're thinking is if the more, if we can educate the industry first, then eventually what we're hoping is that these quarterly events will actually turn into something that more of the public will attend, and less of the industry once they already, once they know the deal, and they get used to having the products, and they get used to selling the different beers, and they get educated on it. Then we really want to take it then, and like you said, maybe a group from Pennsylvania is on vacation, comes in, and they don't know anything about craft beer. When they leave, they will. And then they'll leave knowing, hey, there's 15 breweries within an hour's drive of where I'm at right now. I know this is all here. Maybe I shouldn't go to the same restaurant in Ocean City every summer that I go to for the last 15 years. Maybe I should try out something new, try out something local. And that really is the extent of what we're going for. Because all these places, the local population knows about these breweries. Everyone, if you're from here, most part, you probably have your favorite local brewery. You might not like all of them. You might love all of them. But the tourist population, there's huge beer cultures in Western Pennsylvania and the Baltimore area and up in New York and New Jersey, and all these people already like craft beers. Now it's just a matter of us showing them it's here and getting them to come to our breweries.
And the value added aspect of it, it's at the risk of sounding too businessy, but they don't come here just because we have the breweries, but because these breweries have these kinds of events. They have education.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, actually, that's I'm going to sound like a bad beer drinker here. I don't think I've ever gone to a bar in another city and asked what was local. I mean, most of the time, being such a beer guy, I go right to the source. I go to the brewery. When I went to Pittsburgh, I pretty much drank my way around all the gazillion bridges they have. And I do recognize now, a lot of times in the restaurants, people ask, well, what's local? And like you said, promoting that and getting that trend going is actually a really good idea.
And remembering to do it, because I was guilty of the same thing until I got a little bit more involved in this when I was over the last year or so. But before that, I would go in and my only thought would be like, okay, what haven't I tried yet?
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes it would be local and sometimes it wouldn't. And the first time I made that connection was the Christmas before last. I was in Red Bank. And the only beer that I hadn't tried was one called Carton. And I said, ooh, I'll try that one. And so I had this Carton boat beer. It was very good. And when I looked it up on Untappd, it was like a block away. And I'm like, how do I not know that there's a brewery here? And how did I not know that this brewery? And the only reason I even noticed it was because when I this is when they'd been open maybe 6 months, maybe a year, but probably not quite a year. So when I said how much I liked the beer, the brewer and the owner was on Untappd, and he's got alerts for when people like his beer, and he says thank you for the first, until they started getting thousands. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, he would say thank you to everyone who liked his beer every time. You're like, I love this beer. He'd be like, thanks, I'm glad you liked it. And you're like, holy Christ, this brewer hunted me down to thank me for liking his beer. Mm-hmm. But it was after that I said, if I can't get to a brewery, when I go into a bar, it's important to say, what do you have that's local? And it's important that the bartenders hear that, and that they know, and that the owners know that there's a market for people who aren't going to come in and like, I'm not going to go into a place locally and say, what do you have from Evo? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
I know the beers are around here, so I'm just going to order. I'm going to look and see what they have, and I'm going to order based on what I feel like. So having strangers come in and say what's local, or having, as you were saying, restaurants saying, would you like to hear about some of our local beers? Right up there with the, would you like to hear about our specials and some of our local beers? Or, mm-hmm. Would you like something to drink? We have plenty of local beer, something like that.
I think that would be amazingly beneficial for local breweries to actually have the server say, "Hey, would you like to try this?" For me, in my opinion, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there might not be a style I like, and I think what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to get some of these restaurants to start carrying either A, more taps, or B, bump some of the big guys down and put more local.
If there was only someone who had an agenda to do that.
You know, it's funny you guys say that because Sean actually brought up 2 points that I want to talk on. The first is going back to what you guys were just saying about, you know, servers recommending beers and stuff. One of our agendas looking for a little bit is to actually create a kind of a certification program for servers that we're actually talking today. My boss had a meeting with the Maryland Brewers Association discussing ways we can work with them on it. Also the Ocean City Motel Restaurant Association, but to actually impart knowledge on servers and bartenders so that they can speak intelligently about beer and make recommendations based on preferences. And they can, you know, they can tell you, oh, if you don't like hoppy beers, maybe you should try this, or oh, you really like hoppy beers, try this, etc. So I think it all comes back down to education, and the more just they see it everywhere, the more that they can recommend a food pairing with a beer. You know, similar to how menus pair fine wine. We'd love to see places pairing food just like the same way. I think we're still a little ways away from that, but you know, just starting the education process, the more we can go and continue to build momentum, the better. And going back to Sean's other point about going somewhere and drinking his way around breweries and local breweries, it's funny you should mention that. One of the things we actually have on our site now are 2 challenges for local breweries and anyone who wants to, you know, kind of celebrate going to everywhere. So we have one called the OC9 Challenge, which is actually a little bigger than OC. It stretches from your buddies up at RAR down through Ocean City. So if you go to all those breweries, make a note of it on social media using hashtag #ShortCraftBeer, and the directions are all on the site under brewery challenges, but you can win prizes for that. And then we've got some bigger prizes that you can win if you do 18 of the breweries, you know, stretching all the way up through Dover and Fordham and Dominion up there. We don't have too many people participating in this program yet because it's so new, but we're going to really start pushing it this summer and hopefully, you know, get some people out there and really exploring all these different breweries.
Very cool. I'm actually going to Wilmington probably this weekend.
Okay.
I'll get
I'll accept that challenge all the way. Let me just talk to these guys if they need a grain delivery.
Yeah.
I'll bang them all out in a day. No, what you just said, and honestly, I didn't know we were going to go down that road, so this wasn't scripted. But no, like waiter and server education would be amazing, because it's kind of irritating when I go in there and I'm like, hey, what's this beer? I think it's kind of hoppy. I'm like, well, no, it's a stout. But
thanks for checking.
Yeah, well, thanks for trying. No, it's really awesome when you go into a place and your server is enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And on the same token, I know they're not supposed to, but if they kind of say, oh, you want that?
Yeah.
You know, that would be cool too. Like, oh, okay. And I mean, I'm not ragging on anybody in particular, but I mean, every brewery makes one beer
that's not your favorite.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be a bad beer. It's just not something I like. And it's specific gravities. Actually, most of the servers I've had there, they're pretty on point with.
But that would stand to reason.
Yeah, I mean that's they better.
Right.
Funny you mentioned that point because Tommy Knorr, who owns Evo, and obviously, as you guys know, also Specific Gravity, is the one that really that whole certification idea came from, because he was saying how much they put education forward and how, you know, same thing you're saying, it irritates him when he goes in and asks a question about a beer and he gets those kind of dumbfounded responses. And that conversation with him is really where we got thinking, like, hey, if we can, you know, kind of get some of the people here to know what they're talking about, that's going to help elevate everything even that much more.
Well, it makes the people comfortable. Because, I mean, depends on what demographic you're going for. I mean, if you look at a lot of your, 21 to, I'd say, 24, and I'm just pulling these numbers out of there, most of them, at least when I was that age, if it was boozy, I was drinking it. And then you kind of get, you're 25 to, I don't know, maybe go up to 40-ish. A lot of people like the craft beer, but when you get over that part, a lot of people are set in their ways of, Bud, Miller, Coors, Silver Bullet kind of thing.
Right.
And, if you can get your server to be enthusiastic and maybe kind of get these people to break through that wall, you could open up a whole other demographic into these kind of things. I mean, you're not going to convert everybody, but I mean, I used to work with a guy who was, diehard. There is only one beer in this world, and that is Budweiser. They are the king, and that's the only thing. And by the time I, quit working with him, he was buying a 12-pack of Primal Pale from Evo. And you just kind of have to get them to try. And the hardest thing is, when somebody's like, oh, I tried one of those beers one time, and, they jump right into from Budweiser to Guinness or some insanely hoppy IPA, and that's a quick way to scare people off.
Well, and it's also, as Anthony was saying, it's also this idea of, like, the difference between I don't like that beer and I don't like craft beer. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's important for people like us, as we're out talking around, to make that distinction, to say there are plenty of craft beers that I'm not nuts about. We're always talking about how much we love craft beer, and did we talk about this last week, the week before? Last time you were on. Either?
Possibly.
Anyway, one of the things we've been talking about recently, our drum beating is it's okay to say, you know what, that's not my favorite beer, and to let people know that those of us who are really into craft beer still can say, I'm not nuts about that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I like about the events like Good Beer Fest. And I think Ask a Woman, prior to it being Ask a Woman, it was just 45th Street Tap House. We're talking about doing these beer fests. Everybody's like, a lot of people buy the ticket because it's like, oh, I get to drink all day for not a lot of money. And you kind of force craft beer onto them, mm-hmm. because they don't find their fizzy yellow water in there.
Right.
They're because a lot of these people that go out to these events, they bring the big boy. They bring their huge beer, a moderate beer, and then a entry level beer.
Right.
And the more you drink, all of a sudden those big ones don't seem big anymore.
Right.
As you found out this weekend.
Yes, as I did.
So I think. I don't know where I was going to go with that, so that was gone.
Well, the idea is that it's okay to say you don't like some beers. It's not about being a beer snob. That's what we were talking about this last week. It's not about being a beer snob so much as it's about being an honest consumer, where you're like, you know what? There's nothing. The beer is the beer. It's a fine beer. It's just not for me. And being able to say that and to let people know that it's okay to say that you don't like a craft beer without saying that you don't like craft beer is I think, a key ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree, and that kind of brings us full circle. And like you said, this wasn't a scripted interview at all, but going back to our event next Monday at Ask a Woman Bay, anyone out there who's kind of maybe listening, probably not anyone listening right at this point that doesn't like craft beer, but if you've had that experience where you've had something you don't like it and you don't think it's for you, come out and taste all 8 of them and learn what the differences are, and learn that there's sour beers and sweet beers and light beers and heavy beers and dark beers and everything. So there's something for every taste palate, literally. So Monday's a great time to come out and get to try a bunch all in one place, and not even try them, but get the people that make them explain to you why they're different and what to look for when trying that particular style.
Very cool, and we're going to get ready to wrap it up, so we're going to get that one more time, and I'm going to say it, and you can correct me, because I think I'm a little clearer than you, and that's a connection issue. So it is Monday, the 26th, from 4:30 to 6 at Ask a Woman?
Correct, at Ask a Woman on 45th Street, Ocean City. Tickets are $5 for the general public, and that includes tasting tickets. There'll also be members of the trade. You can RSVP on shorecraftbeer.com. There's an RSVP form to let us know. There's also an event listing on Facebook and all that. So hope to see some of you guys out there. Sean, hopefully you can make it. I know you said you thought you would. I know, Tony, you said you couldn't, but
that's my part-time job. I'll dip when I want to. So.
Yeah, I've actually got my day job putting together the paper on Monday night.
On that one too.
And as far as things here, we have the you guys have the All Grain Brew on the 31st.
Yep. I don't think.
No classes before then.
Yes, I do. I have a Thursday night class, Introduction to Brewing. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday night.
That would be next Thursday.
Yeah. This week we don't have any classes. Actually, I had a huge class last Saturday. It was like 10 people.
Wow.
I expected 4. That was special. But it was a good time. But the all-grain class, we don't get to do them very often, so if you want to come out, call me, sign up, send smoke signals, do something, let me know that you're coming. That way we can kind of plan on snacks and refreshments.
And I'm nowhere this week. Nobody wants me no more. And I haven't checked the calendars yet. But buy Eastern Shore beer. You can find it out on Amazon, and you can follow us on all of the social media at stateofthebeer.com or Anthony at shorecraftbeer.com.
Shorecraftbeer.com. You got it.
And that's all we got. So until next week, drink less stuff, drink better stuff, or at least drink better stuff.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you guys.